Hello gamers, today I'm going to be talking about a game that has taken over my life for the past couple weeks, that game being Vintage Story. A game that can simply be described as a Minecraft mod that became a game, but I'm hoping to describe it in a bit more words than that, as that'd be a bit of a short video if I didn't. But it is important to remember that it is a Minecraft mod, and you can tell that by looking at it right away, as the game looks very much like a Minecraft mod. But then once you get into playing the game, you will see that it is very different at the same time, and I'm hoping that you will understand that as we go through the video. So the first thing you see when you go to play Vintage Story is the fact that the game has its own separate launcher, which isn't really a massive thing. Just I'm one of those people who has all my games on Steam, but now that I think about it, it's technically not really a launcher. It's just the game you install directly onto your computer. But I'm so Steam pilled that I prefer my games on Steam. Maybe that's because I like to see how many hours of my life I'd wasted playing on games. But anyways, that doesn't have much to do with the game, so let's get right into it. And let's start with the way the game looks, and for the most part it looks amazing. It's like Minecraft with shaders turned up to the max, but it's not just looks. But the game has seasons that change over time with things you would expect to happen for each of the seasons. Like autumn time looking amazing with all the leaves falling and the trees starting to change colours. Which also kind of nicely brings us on to how the game gets its difficulty. And well, when you are walking around the world, you may see these little rift things in the distance. And well, maybe you go up to one and poke your head into them. And as you do, you see a Lovecraftian world of horror pop up right before your eyes. But luckily, if you remove your head from the rift, this goes away. Maybe you're just on drugs or something. Maybe those berries you ate earlier were not the best for consumption. But you try not to think about it, as there is so much more on your mind. Mainly making sure you have enough food not to starve to death, which can take a while. If you're not wise with rationing your food, you will starve to death a lot in your first couple days of playtime. Which is very much the hardest early challenge in the early game. Apart from the occasional drifter that makes its way out of a cave, a short hunchback of Notre Dame looking fella that will throw rocks at you. And then of course there is the local wildlife from the likes of bears, wolves and foxes, and so much more. But most of these you do have a chance to outrun. Not the wolves, they can basically chase you down all the time, and bears can one-shot you. But like foxes won't attack you unless you attack them first. Boars are kind of the same. And if you hit the animal a couple times, it will run away from you anyways. But then you've finally got a nice little farm and a base down. You've finally started producing enough food to keep yourself fed. And you are even trying to get ahead of your food production to get extra food to keep in a cellar so you can survive in the harsh months of winter. But then a little message appears in the game's chat. A temporal storm is approaching. Maybe you don't even see it, or if you do, you don't think much of it, but then another message appears a little bit after. A temporal storm is imminent. And a couple seconds later, the whole world turns into an orange brownie hue as cogs appear in the sky. And at that moment, everything that goes bump in the night comes to attack you. Now, if you are lucky enough to have a home and a solid door, you can cower in your building, which is what I have done every time a temporal storm has showed up in town. But if you are unfortunate enough to be trapped outside, well, you're gonna have a rough experience. Or you dig a hole in the ground and you cower until the storm goes away. That is also probably what I would do. Now, this game is based on Minecraft, apart from everything else I've mentioned that makes it very different from Minecraft. You may be thinking, this still just sounds like a hardcore Minecraft mod. But there is something very different that I haven't talked about yet. And that is the fact that the game has a chisel and lets you make cool looking rocks. I joke somewhat. I actually really enjoy the chisel and I think it's almost perfect. But the more different thing, the whole way you go about crafting in this game is just completely foreign to Minecraft. You do have your 9 squares crafting, but is a lot more challenging, and the game is so much more in depth, with the likes of having to form objects out of clay and then harden them in a pit kiln, to having to heat up metal ingots and use a hammer to form ingots into the tools you need, or having different fuel sources for fires that burn at different temperatures, needing, say, something that burns hotter to melt metal than you would for cooking a soup or a stew, of all the berries and fruits you have found. There is also so much more that I can't talk about because I am still learning. I'm playing this game on a world with a mate, which I'm sure you could probably tell from the gameplay, but we are doing separate tasks, with me focusing on metalwork and going out and hunting for all the ores, which is impossible. It's a lot harder to find ores than in Minecraft as well, and also building stuff like the house and stuff like that, because that's the sort of stuff I like. And he is focusing on cooking and animal husbandry and all stuff that entails. But we have barely touched half the game. We have barely touched half the things you can do in the game with a good probably 20 hours of playtime. Probably less, I'm not too sure. But there is just so much you need to learn. I mean, at the time of writing this video, we are still in the Copper Age. And I'm trying to get in the Bronze Age, but I just keep on going through all my copper too quickly. And you will be learning so much. You probably spend a quarter of your first playthrough's time in the little handbook reading all the little steps you need to do to build one simple thing. And unlike a lot of games I play, in this game I deeply enjoy the search for learning this game has provided me with. But hell, maybe that's a sign that I need to read a book or something. But gamers can't read anyways, unless it's a button prompt. I can read button prompts sometimes. The last thing I want to talk about is the game's story. Now, much like early Minecraft, at least to my knowledge, or at least to what I have explored, there isn't much of a story, but there is something deep below the surface. Now, let me quickly once again remind you that I haven't played a lot of the game and I'm not far into the story. I haven't even survived my first winter yet. But I've still seen parts of what could be an interesting story buried below. The most important question is, of course, how do the rifts work and why are they happening? And why are there more that seem to appear when you stay in the same area, with the rift activity rising over time? That is something we don't get answered, or at least I have not found the answers to yet, but is something I find very interesting. And then we also have ruins scattered around the world. Now, these ruins don't tell you much. They look like they've been abandoned for probably hundreds of years. And you can find above ground and below ground ruins with metal machines in the below ground ones, with like teleporters and stuff like that. You just don't have the slightest clue on how to comprehend at this point. And then there's what happened to all the people who built all these machines and ruins. The only real humans you see in the game are the traders, who work out of caravans that don't actually move but look like they would. They have wheels and all the stuff you'd expect them to need to move. So the question also there is, why are they there? Where do they come from? Where do they go? Cotton Eye Joe? Will we ever find out? We may never know. Maybe it's all just going to be headcanon. Maybe there are answers, but I have not just had the honour of experiencing them yet. I'm still just out here trying to survive my first winter season, stocking up food and building materials. But anyways, I hope you have seen something in this game that looks interesting. I highly recommend that you check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe even consider subscribing, but that's up to you. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you've had a good day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.